Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going through a hip mobility routine, and as someone with shit hips, you know you can trust me, so let's get into it.
Now this first one I know might seem kind of wishy-washy, but we're doing some breathing. And why we're doing this is because our ribs are obviously connected to our pelvis, they're connected to our spine. So we're focusing on 5 really big breaths. I'm reaching up with my shoulder blades, feeling them wrap around my body. And when I breathe out, I'm feeling the front of my ribs close down, but I'm trying to keep that space open in the back of my upper back area. You can see I got interrupted by a dog. So that was really nice. And you know what? I might as well just tell you to subscribe now because Spike is clearly in the way. He was crying, and I didn't even get a kiss. Now we're going for some internal rotation breathing. So you can get a foam roller or you could get a water bottle and put it in between your legs. I'm tucking my bum up slightly off of the ground, and then I'm squeezing gently between my knees, and I'm wiggling my feet out so that they are wider than my hips. This is putting my hips into internal rotation, and it's a really gentle, beautiful breathing exercise to try and get some more space in there and to try and get internal rotation feeling a little bit better. The next exercise we have is a cat breath. So you're gonna go into a cat-cow, go into that cat position. So it's a nice rounded upper back. Then you're gonna lean forward over your hands. In that position, we're gonna take a few deep breaths. Still, same goal, focusing on expanding that upper back and feeling the front of the ribs close down. If you get this one done correctly, you should feel your abs start to switch on. I've heard some people describe it quite nicely, like a little massage for their upper back. Keeping that space at the top, closing down at the front. This is all good for opening up our hips. This next one is about trying to restore some rotation to our hips and our rib cage. So I'm reaching around my body with my shoulder blade, my head staying on the ground though, and I'm stretching up, reaching towards my opposite or contralateral foot. My bum is slightly tucked up off the ground, and I'm just taking 5 deep breaths there and then switching sides. The next way that we're going to target our mobility is by focusing on some stretches. For me, I like to do my glutes, my adductors, and my hip flexors, but there's a load of different ways that you can do this. You can do a butterfly stretch like this one here, just holding for about 30 seconds, and then you can slowly move on. This is another type of glute stretch that you could do, just crossing over my leg and then holding up the bottom leg. Here's a nice cheeky angle for you. I don't know why. If you can't do this one lying down like this, then you can try doing it with your foot up on a bench and then just gently leaning into it, because I do know that this position can be painful for some people. The next ones I do are my adductors or inner thighs, and look, I can get my elbows on the ground. I am so happy. That has taken a long time. Finally. Then moving into hip flexors, you don't want to do this with an arch. You want to tuck your bum under like I've just done there, and then you're going to shift your weight forward, and that's going to really help you to feel it on the front of your hip, because some people say that they don't feel it, but it might be because they've got that arch in their back. Same thing on this side. We don't want that arch. We're tucking our pelvis under and then leaning forward, really sinking into that stretch. And here is a wee little split update in case you're interested from my other video. I'm making some progress. That side, not so much. And now moving into the mobility portion. The first one we're going to start with is a hip 90-90, because I've got a 90-degree angle between my legs. Then you're just going to rock back and forth really slowly, really gently. You can do this with your hands up off the ground if you want to. I personally prefer it with my hands on the ground for a little bit of support. If it feels too difficult with that 90-90 angle, you can just make it really narrow, bring your feet closer to you, and then that can feel a little bit more gentle, and it's a really pleasant way to go through external and internal rotation on our hip. If you wanted to, you could add a little bit of an isometric hold where you hold your foot up off the ground, and that's when you're in internal rotation, so it's helping to strengthen that portion of your movement. Just go nice and slow. The next one we've got is a wall scissor slide, and in this one I'm rocking back and forth on a foam roller, but I'm going up and down. So I'm trying my best not to move side to side. I'm trying to move one knee and one hip up, and then the other one comes down. This is how our hips move in walking. So this is actually a really great one to do. Here's just another angle. I sometimes do it without the foam roller, but you can do it with the foam roller for a little bit of support. I don't know if you can see this, but on this one, I can't sink into my left side as well as my right. The next exercise, guys, is a hip car, but I'm trying my best not to topple over. I'm not very mobile in this one, so this is definitely something I need need to work on personally. I'm trying to keep my rib cage down, and then I'm moving back and forth. Feel free to balance on something if you need it. You can put your foot up onto a water bottle, a yoga block, a book, anything to make it a little bit more challenging if you want to. And you're just doing a nice big circle there with your hip and then bringing it back. You can put your feet directly against a wall. That'll help with a little bit more stability. And you can see I'm kind of toppling over there. This side is a bit more comfortable for the movement, so I'm a little bit more upright, but that's what I want you to focus on. Ribs down, eyes forward. Let's move those hips. And now moving into strength, guys, we are starting with windmills, and windmills are all about strengthening that external rotation of our hip in a really controlled manner. So what I'm doing, it's a very small movement. I'm dropping my hip and my knee down to the ground, and then I'm moving my whole body back up to rotate it. So if you do this correctly, you should feel a really strong burn in your glute. You can put your leg on the ground to start with if a balance is too tough, and then you're rotating your shoulders and your hips, and they're all moving in unison. So there's no disconnect there. Everything's moving up and down together. You can see sometimes I kind of over rotate, but that's okay. It's just a practice, guys. It doesn't have to be perfect, and we're just doing our best to really feel that burn and feeling our glutes working to strengthen that rotation. The next one, guys, is a Copenhagen plank, and this is for our inner thighs to strengthen them. You can put your knee on the bench instead of your ankle if you want to make it a little bit easier, and if you want to make it more difficult, that's when we would add that movement up and down instead of just holding it up. We want a nice big squeeze, and we want to stay controlled. Now we're into our hamstring curls. I want you to dig down into that bench or that bed as hard as you can and try and pull it towards you. As you're doing that, then you can raise your hips up and down, but I want you to keep that digging and pulling motion the whole time that you are moving. You can try single leg or you can start with double leg. That is completely fine. Just moving up and down, feeling that burn. And please, for the love of God, drink some water. Okay, thank you. The next one is a hip hinge. This is the movement that we use in deadlifts and bent over rows. There are some things that I'm focusing on here. Primarily, I'm keeping my tailbone high. I'm not letting my shoulders drop below my hips. I'm not letting my knees rush backwards. Keeping my weight in the middle of my foot. I'm reaching back with my hips, trying to make my bum as big as possible. And then I'm squeezing up. So it's kind of like a trampoline with your glutes. That's the kind of motion that I want you to get into. Backwards with your hips, they're getting nice and stretched out. You're feeling that squeeze and that tension, and then you're squeezing everything up to finish that movement. And that is it, guys. Those are my staples of my hip mobility routine. I hope you like them or not. I don't know. I'm not your mom. Okay. Bye.